Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is Monday, June 13th, 2022, for the Anti-Racism Task Force regular meeting online. For I call the meeting to order at 6:11, and first order of business is public comment. So if there's anyone in attendance from the public who wishes to speak, please use the hand raise function. We'll have Kayla elevate you. Please use your first and last name and your address to identify yourself, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes if possible. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Taylor, do we have anybody?
No one raising their hand.
Okay, excellent. I will close this portion of the agenda and move on to approval for the minutes for May 9th, 2022 for the Anti-Racism Task Force regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll start a motion.
Thank you, Sam. Second? Anyone can second. Nobody wants to second something. Pat, Brian.
I can't remember if I was here. It felt like so long ago. Was I at this meeting?
You were.
Yes.
Okay, I second.
Precious, I had the
Seconded
same
by-
question. I was trying to think about it too.
Yes, power committee right here. Yes, you were there. All right, thank you. I have a first and a second. Thank you so much. And any discussion other than if we were in attendance? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent. Hearing none, the matter passes unanimously. Next order of business is new business for the follow-up discussions on the MRJC workshops. So we had discussed last time, or at least I suggested, that we combine some of those workshops with the caveat that folks kind of get a broad idea of where they wanted to work or what they thought might be the best way to combine those and give feedback. And also, if possible, to have meetings or at least group together to have some discussions about the work moving forward. So I want to bring that back up. Do we have any thoughts, suggestions, other than what I brought up in the last meeting as to combining some of those workshops or work groups? Oh, no, sorry, I'm all on the wrong. My bad. Let me reverse that. I am said A and I'm looking at B. So MRJC workshop. Try that again. This is calling back the group that did a very nice 2-day workshop with us to get us started, to talk about strategic plans, our focus, our objectives, our goals, and use a framework through the workshop to help us get started and identify that. What I am suggesting is we bring the MRJC workshop group back. It was Diana Martinez, and I believe her name is Christiana, but it was through the MRJC. So I'd like to suggest and get approval to do that once again, unless someone has, a better suggestion or a different group they think we should be working with. I'm suggesting that this time MRJC come in and help us kind of follow up from the initial workshop and where we are now, and kind of help us with our progress, and if we're moving in the right direction or the best direction, what are the best practices, and any further things that we could or should be doing as a working group. Precious, just jump in there. Is that because I know you're a part of them? Well, you're the director of MRJC. Is that is something that MRJC is capable of doing around this work?
Yes, we are able to provide, well, obviously it wouldn't be me,
So I'm actually going to abstain from the vote, and y'all can have as candid as a conversation as you need to. It will not hurt my feelings if you don't go with us. But we are able to do that, that part two, which I feel like is needed no matter who does it, to help us regroup and reground after we've been together for this past 2 years. My suggestion would be like, is this the group that we should be doing that with? Like, are there, I know we had the conversation about like new folks coming on and old folks, times being up. Do we want to wait for that to happen to do a part two, or do we want to do it now before there might be some transition? I would personally wait, so that we're not doing this twice with different groups of folks. But we can definitely do that type of work. So with strategic planning and goal setting, as well as team building, especially if we're talking about combining topics. That's just my 2 cents on it.
That is a powerful 2 cents, Precious. Thank you. Since you are the director of the group, I think that's very well said. Any other comments around having MRJC come in, or holding off and waiting to see if there's going to be new folks to come in?
I have a question. If there are new people coming in, do you think it'd be, and this might be a question for Precious, beneficial to do the first training again, since it had been a while and going through it all? Or do you think we could just leave or start off with the second part of the training? Just curious.
I absolutely think a part two can combine some of and go and reimagine some of the things from part one as well. So I don't think we would have to redo all of part one, but you may see some of the same things if it's a new group. A little bit. I would say they would probably do it 85%, 90% differently, but we're still adding, making sure that folks are caught up.
Thank you for that, Sam. Thank you, Precious. And any other comments? I would like to ask one question. Precious, when do you think would be a good time? Maybe sometime this time next year, or the beginning of the year, or later on this year?
I actually think that's a question for the group, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what exactly would we iron out in part two?
I was thinking that we would iron out our progress. So we would send that forward, what we've done so far, what we have as far as our goals, our objectives, our mission statements, how we've utilized some of the tools that MRJC gave us initially, and probably some broad brushstrokes over what the future looks like for this particular group. And like you said, a kind of a reboot. If you remember, some folks weren't able to make it the full first 2 days. Some people did one, some people just did two. They were mid-pandemic, so it didn't go as smooth as we had liked it, but we wanted to give our group something. So the hope is to kind of do an assessment as to, okay, so what did we take out of that? We got a lot in 2 days, and we hit the ground, kind of running, and we're moving along. So this is how we see ourselves, and this is what we have so far. How do you think we're doing? Any suggestions in your assessment and feedback?
I actually feel like that can be done anytime, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
I almost feel like it's needed now, with the way the group has been, operating, and like I feel like we need a reboost, really talk about our small victories so far and our goals for what we want to do. I think that can happen soon. But if y'all would want to wait till the end of the year, if there are things coming up that you would rather prioritize, that's fine too. I do think we could talk as a group about it.
Absolutely. Dr. Morgan?
Sure, thanks, Precious. I agree. I think we also could capitalize on start times, so September when school is kind of a launching point for new beginnings. We could capitalize and say, here's our reboot time. We're fresh into the fall. This is what we think we need to do to kind of move forward, or a new year. We could capitalize on that too. In January, it may be too far, but maybe thinking strategically about the selling point and the marketing piece as to how we reboot as a group and move forward.
Okay. Anyone else? I mean, I completely agree. I think is what's going to be really important is people's availability. And what they think is best for, their schedule, reaching out. We need to decide what best time of the year is going to be for all of us. So, suggestion, we could send out I'm not sure, Taylor, if you know how to do this, but maybe send out a Google or a document that gives everybody an opportunity to be able to say, here are the best times that, whether it's a month, a day, or a time frame. What we're looking at is, again, and group, let me know if I'm, going too far. I think the 2-day workshop was great. We could pick a time to replace one day with our meeting, and then we did it on a Monday, which was our regular meeting, and we replaced it with the workshop, and we then did the very next day, which was a Tuesday. Is what we did the last time. It's out fairly, if whether we want to put forth on the document the same suggestions, whether it's September, October, November, or January. I suggest we go with that, and we can compile the information from there. And then after we get that settled, then we can talk about what type of assessment we would like MRJC to help us with. Thought?
Is this
Okay, so I'm sorry.
Nope, jump in.
So I don't know how to do a live document on Box, but I'm sure I can set up like a spreadsheet. Excuse me, I have electrician. But if there is another way to do it where I can create a live document, I can figure that out. I can work with IT so that we can all jump on that.
Okay. I just like to make it easy for everyone, and then we can pretty much see. I'm not sure. I know I've gotten a few of them. I'm not sure what the app platform is where you can just pretty much put in a day, or here's, pick one of these days or this time frame in which to do it. So, but let's just some feedback from the group is do we think that's the best way to move forward in figuring out when we can have it, sooner than later, or the best time when everybody's available? Because I'm thinking July and August is totally not. Those months are pretty much gone. So anything from September on.
Arnell, excuse me. I came in late.
Yes.
I apologize. I was on another
Sure.
call. So can you just summarize where you are? Because I kind of don't understand
Okay.
what you're talking about.
Yes. We had done a workshop, 2-day workshop with MRJC
Mm-hmm.
2 years back,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a lot of good tools and a lot of good information to move our group forward, our task force forward.
Okay.
So my suggestion was for MRJC to come back in and reassess with everything that we've done so far, and talk to us and do another 2-day workshop on if there's any improvements or guidance or support or their sense of what we're doing, how we're doing,
You faded away.
Yeah, I was like, did we lose him or was he done?
Yeah, he kind of faded away to,
He said his
Still,
internet was acting
I
up.
can't hear anything now.
he's still logged on, so let's see.
I don't want to speak for him, but is it okay if I finish that statement that he was making to help you out, Pat?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just kind of faded away.
Sure. So
I,
we were talking about, there you go.
yeah, my network just took me out. I saw it
Yeah.
come in, and I'm like, hey, up, and then it went poof, just left. Okay, so I'm gonna leave my video off because I think that's part of the problem. So Pat, how much did you hear before I disappeared?
I heard that we had the workshops, it was 2 days, and we're gonna like reassess. That's
Yeah, we're gonna do a follow-up,
follow
right? We
up.
want them to come back in and say, hey, this is what we've done so far. This is how we use the tools, the information that you gave us. Here's our progress. Here's what we're looking. Here's where we are currently, and this is what we're looking to do, and them to help us continue the work.
Okay, gotcha.
Again. Can everybody still hear me? Supposedly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
I faded again. My apologies. I'm gonna try. I think Brian jinxed me. Wow, it's even doing it on my phone. All right, let me. Oh, hold on. I apologize. Apologize. Okay. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Is there an echo? Okay, good. All right. All right. So where we're at right now is, well, Kayla will come up with a form to send out to the group to choose month, 2 days to do the workshop. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's
Okay.
the way. Yeah.
And nothing before September.
I have a quick question. I remember when we first started or tried to start this, we talked about doing it in person. Is this going to be like do the WebEx, or are we doing this in person?
So we wound up doing it on WebEx.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in person is better. But again, I think that's a question for the group, how folks feel. And again, also, if MRJC is actually doing anything in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say first, we will have it, clearly can have it via WebEx because we've done that before. I think the first order of business would be is to get the best time frame as to when we're going to do it for the group, where we can get as many people as possible for the 2 days. And from there, we can
within the next couple of meetings, we can decide if we're moving towards doing anything in person at this time. Is that okay with folks?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So Kayla, you'll send out that document for people?
Can you
Yes,
ask on that document if folks would prefer to be in person so that we can see if there's even interest in doing that? And
sure.
then that way, when we have the conversation with the MRJC, we could just let them know we're looking for someone to do this in person. And if they're not able to, then we can continue to look for folks. Because
Absolutely.
I could say that we are doing things in person, but we're working with a consultant. It's not me. So I would have to check with Christiana about her comfort and availability to do something in person. That's why I can't outright answer that right now.
Am I still there?
Yes.
yes.
Because I just turned off my computer. I just wanted to make sure I'm still here. So I'm just doing it by my phone right now. Okay. Excellent. All right. I think that's great. We can move on to the next item, which is discussion of the work group collaboration. So really would love, everyone's feedback on this and suggestions. So my last suggestion was to combine based on the amount of folks that we have and the work that we're doing. And we do know that there's overlap within the work groups or the work that, could be done. And based on people's time and efforts in trying to get together and have meetings and do this work, can we move forward with combining some of these themes and work groups together? How do people feel about that? Because I'm thinking at least by next month we should have that solidified, whether we're going to do it or whether we're not going to do it.
I actually responded to this after our last meeting. I sent you all an email.
Yep.
Well, I think I just sent it to you, the leadership. But Stacy and I actually had gotten together after the meeting, and what we talked about was I'll just read the email. It says, we believe that community building, information sharing and processing, and racial climate can be weaved into all of the work groups. And so that would leave housing, education, criminal justice, labor, and environment all in its own groups. We struggled with combining any of those because the conversations already get so convoluted, where these things are always all connected anyway. Housing is connected to education, period. Community, criminal justice is connected to labor, period. Right. And so we know that those things will get convoluted if they're combined in that way. So we took the three that we felt, because we had 8 groups, and we took the 3 that we felt could be woven into each of them, again, which was community building, information, and racial climate, and then created 5 groups on its own, which is still a lot, but we really couldn't figure out which 5 of those to combine with each other. So I just thought I'd share that with the group.
Precious, could you say the 5 that you thought should stand alone again, please?
Absolutely. I'll also copy and paste it into the chat if that's
Yep.
cool.
Yep, that sounds good.
So what we said was housing, education, criminal justice, labor, and environment as the 5. And that community building, information, and racial climate could be woven into any of those and should be woven into any of those.
Right. And I support that. I remember a while back we had talked about the intersectionality of all of these and how connected these all are, especially when you think about systemic levels. So I think if we can minimize the number, that might also seem more manageable for people as well. The 8 could have been quite overwhelming and felt like we were torn in several directions or would have several meetings Whereas if we can collaborate a little bit more in terms of these work groups, based on the topic areas, I think that feels more feasible.
I agree. Anyone else have comments? Or thoughts on combining those groups? Precious, I have a question. So would we take the three that you said, information, racial climate, and environmental? Would that all be one group, or you know, you said it would be woven into each of the five, all three of those?
Yeah, it was community building,
I'm
information, and
sorry,
racial
community building.
climate.
Okay.
Because when you're talking about criminal justice, you should be talking about community building. You're talking about the racial climate, and you're talking about how to share and collect information, right? I would say the same about housing right now, the same about education. So we felt like those across the board should be included in all of them. It's just a way of working, of doing it, of looking at it a little differently, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense to me. How does, if there's no other comments, the group can, you know, vote to change what we have currently to what Sasha and Precious talked about, so we can move
Precious and
forward.
Stacy.
I'm sorry, Precious and Stacy.
And if folks do believe we can combine these things, I'm cool with. I just threw out a suggestion, so the floor is still completely open. I feel like
There's something else.
Nashari just put her hand up.
Yeah, Nashari, go for it.
Hi, so I was just reading what you guys are thinking to combine. Um, so you're saying housing and criminal justice can be combined with those three things, right? Like you're just trying to say like how to do that? Like
So,
that's what you guys, everything is stuck on?
so I would say housing would be its own group. But
Oh, okay.
when we think about how we're going to do housing, we need to be talking about community building around housing. We need to be talking about information sharing around housing. And we need to be talking about a racial climate around housing. Rather than trying to combine like education and housing, right? So, or criminal justice and housing. Those five things can stay on its own, but we're going to talk about them under those three subsets of community building, information sharing, and racial climate. Does that make more sense?
Yeah. So just talk about them for the group or as like community, like as a whole, like Middletown thing around criminal justice, if that makes sense. Because like I have ideas, but I don't know if it's in the if it's relevant to like if it's just relevant, you know, if to the group. Like I don't know how far you want to take it if I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I was just trying to figure out what question was. Yeah.
So just because those things are in there too doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you're talking about. But
Okay.
say for instance, if you do start talking about like under criminal justice, if y'all want to start talking about the PAL program and whatever that means, right? Specifically for folks of color, y'all can talk about that. And then whatever you decide, say if you decide you want to figure out how to get more Black kids in Wow, I'm really making this up, y'all, because that is not my idea.
Mm.
But you can talk about how are we going to share that information with folks? How are we going to build community with police versus like community? How are we going
Okay.
to talk about the racial climate of that programming and if that works for our kids or what it needs to be in order for our kids to feel comfortable there. Like those are, you can talk about whatever,
Okay.
but
So
those things
I
are
didn't know
still going to
about
come up.
POW, but for like when I was thinking about racial climate and community building, I feel like those kind of go together because um I guess we're talking about POC versus our police department. And if we're trying to build that, yeah, I feel like it would be cool if POW does these type of things like community things with the police. Like, I don't know, they have things at McDonough, like sometimes this guy would give like backpacks and stuff. So maybe like during the beginning of school, so maybe the police can do that. They can have like different kid things. I don't know. That's what just came up in my head when I was reading it. But I don't know if that's what POW does or already is thinking about. I didn't know about POW.
Oh, child, I was just making that up as an example
Oh.
for how to use that. No, that wasn't a real example.
Oh.
It was just something that I took out of community that I know is new, and a lot of folks are talking about it. And I just use that as an example because I know a lot of folks are talking about it. I have no idea what the hell PAL is. Really, and I used to, and I was in it in Waterbury, but I don't know what it is for Middletown. It could be very different. I was in
Well,
PAL
yeah.
over like 20 years ago, so
Oh,
I don't know
oh.
if it's still the same.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, just if we can host something like that, that can be relevant in both of those things. And information can be given. I don't know, pamphlets can be printed out. We can look up statistics or something and put it on there, like the intersectionality of things, so everyone can understand it on like their level. And it can also be building everyone as a whole, just with the face of the police, but like hosted by us. So it's like our message, but in real life. But that's where my head went when I was reading, and things that we can do to talk about and future goal things.
Okay.
Nope. So what I think you're doing, Nashari, is like really taking that example and that action and like putting it into what we just said, like with thinking about them in those three different tiers. So that I think what you just said was spot on.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, I think it's a great idea. I think we should stay with the 5 themes. And within those themes, we should incorporate, let me make sure I get this right, the community building, the racial climate. Goodness, what was the last one, Precious? My apologies.
Information sharing.
The information sharing, specifically to how it's shared from the community and what the system is doing to people of color, folks like us, the folks that we're targeting and looking for that information to get to. So if we are all in agreement, then we'll move the foundation of each one of um, those themes into those 3 themes that we just said into each one of the 5. And so when those groups get together, they'll utilize those subsets to have the conversations, formulate the recommendations or actions that should be taken either by the mayor or by the mayor, the council, the task force, or whatever group we're recommending take that action, even if it's us. Does the task force members agree with that?
Is that an actual vote or a question?
No, it was a question.
Okay.
So that we can take a vote. If so, that's the framework and what we're talking about. If everyone is in agreement with, changing that format to what we just talked about, since it doesn't seem like anyone has any more comments or suggestions, um, I'd like to know first before we make a motion that is there any more
and that's what we will be voting on. Okay, so I haven't heard anything. So moving forward, we have 5 themes. Underneath those themes, or the subsets of those themes, are the 3 that we just mentioned, which is information sharing, community building, and the racial climate, which each work group of those 5 themes will utilize to complete and continue their work, the research, and generating recommendations and or actions to those stakeholders that we identify from that work. So can I have a motion to move forward with changing the work groups from, I think we have, from 8 to 5?
So moved.
Hey, on Morgan, seconded.
Thank
Oh,
you.
did I
Any
need to
further?
wait on you?
Nope, no, you're good. You're good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, matter passes. All right, and last on the agenda is the NCCJ report. Number 1 is discussions and updates about recent working groups, meetings. Has anybody been able to meet? I know it's been really tough for folks.
I know our group tried to meet. This is Kaon, but I've been sick for the past couple weeks, so I'll leave Precious to probably send a
Yeah, I was
brief. It's
actually
been
gonna
crazy.
first I'm glad you're back in good health and you and your family.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, I've been kind of like just meeting individually with the other folks.
Okay,
So Stacy and I met individually, and then Sasha and I met individually. So we did try to get together, but it didn't work out. I think the only thing that we are thinking about and talking about under housing right now, as far as Middletown, is the passing from the governor that all municipalities over a certain Middletown falls into it. I'll just say that. I don't know how many residents you have to have, but that they have to have fair housing, fair rent commissions. So that is a new law that has passed, and so Middletown has to create a fair rent commission. We have, there's some conversations going on in community about the wording around those things, what the requirements will be, trying to make sure it has teeth so that we can really have conversations about what fair housing looks like in Middletown, what are the quotas in which people are defining fair housing, because we know rents are going up, so do things still qualify as fair housing? Talking about landlords, there's just so many conversations around what this could be. And so I know that they're drafting some language around the requests for the recommendations for what we want the council to put into that commission. That's like the only thing that I'll say from this month for housing.
thank you, Precious. Is there any document or any language that can be shared with the group yet? The task force?
I actually don't think so. I think that
Okay.
I was asked to be on something that was drafting the language, but the date is not up yet. So maybe, hopefully by the next meeting. And I don't know if there's a rush on it or anything, like if there's a deadline for when that has to be done. But if there is by our next meeting, I'll certainly bring it with me, as well as send it to you all as soon as I get it, for us to put it in our box.
Thank you. Did anyone else have any other group have a chance to meet?
Can I just speak on the fair housing or fair rent ordinance?
Sure. Absolutely.
So there is a meeting happening. I invited Precious and the whole housing segregation working group. There's a meeting with the city attorneys on Tuesday. I did try to change it. Unfortunately, the mayor, we've already have it scheduled, but there are going to be other meetings. And I think it's important for everyone who sits on that working group to have a seat at the table to help create this language. So it is Tuesday. I think it's at 9. I'm not sure. I got to look at the schedule. But that's not the final. Just to answer your question, it has to be per the government requirements. It has to be in by 2023. But I know that there's a push to have an ordinance soon because I know this is a challenge for Middletown, period. Like rental properties are just really, the increase is ridiculous. It's been insane. So I had quite a few people call into the mayor's office and ask us like what we could do. So I know that it's a push, but I think, the task force input is going to be very crucial. And so any recommendations I think would be good. But again, the meeting's on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the 21st. But I'm pretty sure that there's going to be another meeting after that. So I can try to get that out to you guys.
You said it's the 21st. It's not tomorrow, Tuesday.
No, not tomorrow. Not this. Nope. Next Tuesday.
I can make that one.
You can? Okay, perfect. I can send you the invite. Hold on. Let me look at my schedule.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
I
So,
wouldn't have been able to make it tomorrow. That's what I was saying when I said I couldn't do Tuesday.
and I had the time all wrong. That was another really important meeting. But this meeting is at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, the 21st, for whomever is interested.
Okay, I can be there.
Okay, perfect. And I can send out an invite. Just send me a message if you're interested. But that's all I have.
And thank you, Kayla, for looking out for the group and making sure that we are involved in stuff like this. Because you were the one who, I didn't hear anything about it other than from you, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. 10.
Kirk, did you have your hand up for a little bit?
Yeah. I haven't been able to get into the box at all. And I sent a couple emails, but I also was out of the country for all of May. So if somebody could contact me to handle that, I'd appreciate it, but it's not a huge priority.
Nope, I can do it right now. I can resend the invite. So sorry you didn't get it. I'll do that right now.
I think I keep waiting too long when I get the invite.
I do think that it expires after a while. So if you do get it, if you have time tonight, try going on there. If you have issues, let me know. I don't have a max to how many times I can send it. So.
Can you send me an invite as well, Kayla?
Sure. Who am I speaking to?
Right.
Is it Brian? Okay. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Yep, I'll get that over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a way that I forgot? We were supposed to at one point figure out like who was on what work group because I can run another one. I just don't know which one I'm on. I think they were information sharing and community building, actually.
I was gonna say those are the two that I were on, so I need to get reassigned. Or I have to figure out another group to join.
So I think that there is a list, and I believe it's in Box. If it's not there, please, I'm gonna check now. If it's not there, I'll update it and make sure all of the working group members and their folders are in Box. And then once I do that, I'll just send out an email. Let me make a note to myself. I'll just send out an email. And then I don't think there's a max of how many you can be assigned to. So, But then again, that would be a question for Darnell and Sasha. Or for
Yeah, I
you.
was actually about to ask that. So now that we have 5 groups, should we be on more than one?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think if I remember correctly, they said it's kind of based on like what you can do and what you can handle. Because if you sign up for too many, then that might be overwhelming. But I think it's just based on, I don't think there was a limit. I think it's based on what you can do and what you can contribute. But I could be wrong.
And I mean, I think that's fair, like as much as you can handle, right?
It doesn't matter that I was talking that whole time and I still haven't figured how to unmute myself on WebEx, right? Oh my goodness. Sorry, I was answering, but apparently I didn't realize I was muted. Yes, Sam, you are correct. And we didn't we didn't think more than two, especially when we had eight. I would still say, again, same thing. If once we're really back at full census, if at least 2 to 3 people on each work group, I think is manageable, right? And again, once whatever we're reporting back, like again, Precious gave a great report. Kayla did some research, and if it now means that there's going to be additional help from other members of the task force to keep themselves involved and add to it, at least a little bit at a time or as they can. I think that's perfect. But as long as you have at least 2 to 3 main folks who are working in this area, and whenever needed, bring what you can back to the group to look for additional assistance and to have a solid discussion about what more can be done if there's anything or any other ideas. But again, no limit. If you want to be in all 5 and you have that much time and you want to put in that much energy, I go for it.
Do not do that much free labor. Do not listen to Darnell. He's giving y'all horrible advice.
No, I suggested just 2, but I don't want to shut down anybody's passion. So I do not want to be the bubble popper here. Absolutely
I feel
not.
you. I feel you.
Oh, sorry. So yes, that's the answer to that question. So if take a look at Box and send it right into Kayla, or your suggestions are where you want to be. Hey, I was in information, move me to this one, or I was in environmental racism, send me to this one, because again, those 3 will have a solid foundation. All right. And last but not least on the agenda is discussions to recommend guests. So I do have a recommendation that we do 2 things. We can discuss this later on about how we engage with MRJC and Faith Jackson's department in starting community conversations. I'd like to try and do that before we invite back or have the working group work with Camacho. Is it Professor or Director Camacho in his group from Yale? Because they're still very interested. I know September the kids come back, and what was suggested is that they have models for the CRBs to and how they impact communities, so that it would help us generate the language that we want to finalize and recommend for Middletown. But don't want to invite him and his students back until we figure out how we want to have get community conversations going on or gather information from the community as to where they are now with a CRB. So the discussion would be, and my question is, we are still interested in having community conversations and inviting Director Camacho and his students back for those models, correct? That was a question.
Can I ask what the community conversations are around?
CRBs. So it was reported, well, it's in the report, and from what we've been discussing overall is that there were so many themes in there. CRBs were important to folks, but they didn't outshine the other issues that community members were concerned about. And since then, a lot has gone on, right? We've gone through so much that doesn't even bear repeating at this point, and we're still going through so much. So the thought was, before we, put recommendations to paper and send it, that we really should do a temperature check on where the community is with this, because once we give the recommendation from us, we want to make sure that it's a recommendation that truly represents what the task force is saying that the community is looking for. No matter what level the CRB is functioning at, it truly represents what they're looking for. And it didn't make sense to not have a conversation, at least to check in, because that report was done some time ago and so much has happened since then.
Makes sense.
So my only question is that is still our path, correct? We still want and need to have community conversations, and I'm thinking, and again, jump in. I'm thinking at least two. We're going to need help doing this. It's not something that the task force should take on. We should definitely utilize any resources that were utilized before, and if we should be expanding on how to share the information and communicate with folks so that we can get even a full senses of input on where people are at, that would be even better. And then this way, when we meet with our guests, which is Director Camacho and his students, we have some tangible, whether it's recommendations, assessment, or information coming straight from the community, and how that matches up with their models that they would be presenting to the task force. Hearing silence again. How do folks feel about that direction?
That works.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Somebody say something.
Help me out on Zoom, on WebEx, please, people.
All right. Well, hearing no objections, then we'll coordinate with MRJC, Faith Jackson's office, on how it was done before, and if there's any suggestions on how to reach out to folks, information sharing, and reaching out to the community, whether we're doing it via surveys, whether we're doing it, whatever ideas you have, let's gather that information and put that all together before the next meeting, so this way we can get started, because the students all come back in September, and we'd like to have. My suggestion is to have at least, where we've reached out to the community at least once or twice before they get back, so we can move on this topic and close it out once and for all. Make sense?
Makes sense. I have a question. I know this is the last item on the agenda, but you mentioned ways to reach out. Were we doing anything for Juneteenth, or I guess I'm thinking of outlets for us to connect and reach out. I wasn't
Yes.
sure where we were on some of those items.
So we are
Excuse
tabling
me.
for Juneteenth. It is from 12 to 4
It is at, oh my goodness,
At Smith Park from 12 to
Smith
6.
Park. Yes, Smith Park from 12 to 6. Sorry.
Yes.
So it's from 12 to 6. I think I'm not sure. I think we'll go with how we feel. I believe we will be out there at least from 12 to 4. We could be out there longer. And again, it's totally volunteer. I will be out there. I know Sasha's going to be out there. I know Precious is going to be there. So I think Kayla said she was going to be there. So we would love to have, as many of task force members out there to be able to reach out to folks.
Thank you.
Are you all still going to have a table or just show up? Either.
Yes. Yes, we're still going to have a table.
Did you do that paperwork? The vendor form
I believe I did.
with the $50?
That's a really good question.
If not, it's not too late.
Okay. I am going to have to go back and see if it's what I said I was going to do. I apologize.
If you need help with it, just call me. I'll get you a table.
You will you'll probably be getting a call in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I have a little too much on the plate. My apologies. Yes, so we will be there. Okay.
Sorry.
There's
I may have missed it. Where is it at? What park?
Smith Park.
Smith Park. All right. Thank you.
Does everybody know where Smith Park
something
is?
to put on. That's a good question. Does everybody know where Smith Park is?
I have no clue,
That
but
by Moody's?
I could GPS it, I guess.
Is that the park that's near Moody School, like Country Club Road over there?
Yep.
Hey, I
Okay.
trust you.
Yeah.
And what are we putting on the table?
I believe what we utilized last time from MRJC. If folks have some other ideas that we can put on the table, that would be great.
I can tell you what other folks are doing.
Sure. Do you mind sharing real quick?
Sure. So I know there are a lot of like vendors who are selling stuff, but as far as like information vendors, which would be what we would be considered, you would just have information about who you are, what you do, how folks can get involved. You could do like some kind of raffle giveaway. I know the MRJC, we always bring books, which don't sound like a hit, but people really took those books last year. And this year we very much focused on Juneteenth around the books. We're also raffling off a bunch of gift cards. And I know other tables are raffling, like the Ministerial Health Fellowship is doing some raffles at their table. So like try to incorporate something small and fun, as well as like giving people information, because folks are going to get a lot of information. And I don't want our table to be boring.
Okay. So folks, we have 4 days to come up with some really fun ideas. Please, by all means, share them with Kayla. Kayla,
I'm here.
share your ideas. I will do some research and see what we can do that is fun and informational, that has to do with anti-racism and what we're about.
Do we have an anti-racism like illustration or logo or something that we've used in the past? Because I went to, I don't know if you are familiar with Minuteman Press, but I used them for a few like pamphlets or just like print out small flyers just so that people can, get familiar with the anti-racism task force, and we kind of explain to them what we do in our work groups and themes, and maybe my contact information if they wanted to know more, wanted more information, something like that. Or if we already have something like that, I don't know, but I think that information, like, at least having someone to contact is good. They want to get involved with the work, or if they want, have questions or want to recommend something to the task force, or even just make us aware with what's going on in the community. I know that a lot of people are in the community and are doing work outside of the task force and, work in the community, but it's never, never enough. It's always good to know what's going on outside.
That would be nice. And, we could have swag that we would wear with the logo kind of deal that gets, even thinking about being at the table, it would have been nice to have something that is representative of our group and makes a statement, makes us memorable as opposed to, okay, we're just holding space kind of deal.
Right.
But it's food for thought too for the future, ways in which we can rework the direction of our group and some of the things that we think will make our work more powerful and connected to the community. Because that's the other thing, is the connection that we want to create with the community as we're out there and as we're present kind of deal.
And I will say we created something when we did the Amistad event, but it's really dated. And half of it was MRJC and half of it was the Anti-Racism Task Force. And since we're not sharing a table, I don't feel like that would be a good way we couldn't still use those same things. So Kayla, I like the idea of coming up with something different. What I would not suggest is please, please, please don't do a Dropbox or a suggestion box for what people want to see in Middletown. And the only reason why I do that is because those things are so depressing, right? And Juneteenth is a celebration of our liberation. So I would hate for a table that's like, well, what do you think all the problems are in Middletown? Like, not today, bro.
No.
So like, not today. The same way I wouldn't have gone and did that at Pride, because that is also a celebration, right? So that's the only thing I would recommend we not do. But it is very popular. But we're asking all the groups not to do stuff like that.
Okay. So,
Okay.
sorry, there was,
Go ahead.
I'm not sure because this was something that was on. I was very passionate about getting a Black Lives Matter mural or street walk, something similar to what we have in Middletown for Pride. And I know we talked about it in the past, and we floated the idea around, and it is supposedly going to happen. And I asked Sasha to come up with, or if she had any recommendations of Black artists that can illustrate the whatever we want, a mural or street art. And she sent me a couple different artists. So you all are more than welcome to send me artists as well. I think it should be a minority Black person to illustrate that. But I can certainly reach out to them if you guys are in agreement to see if they can illustrate something for the task force.
I like that
I like
idea.
that idea. Yeah. And it would be dope if we could have like a task force logo because we just use the city logo for everything.
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right. So I would ask one last thing. If anybody has some ideas about if you could send them to Kayla, just going to put all this on Kayla.
Don't worry.
Recommendations on books or reading material, especially if they're important for kids. That's not already being identified on other tables. Something specific. I'm going to do some research, and I will probably be looking to the group. You might get an email from me. Is this a good book or recommended book? And see if we can't have some of those items actually on our table. Maybe a way to get folks connected with some of that reading material or online information. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. If there is nothing else, I shall see you all on Saturday.
Yay.
Yay. All right. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Everybody, thank you so much for your time and have a great, beautiful night.
Thanks,
Night,
guys. Look
everyone.
forward to
Bye,
you as well.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.